Okay, so welcome to your report for the full moon in Aquarius, which is coming in tomorrow morning. I'm really excited to talk about this full moon. The energy building up to this full moon has been absolutely fucking wild. So, wherever you're at in your own journey, if you've been feeling a lot of intensity and just like a lot of emotion, like that was one of the most intense Mercury retrogrades that I've personally ever experienced. I'm curious how it was for you guys. Maybe leave me like a note or a comment wherever you're seeing this video and let me know how it was for you. For me, it was impacting my chart in a really specific way. So I knew it would be a big one, but I think for everyone that retrograde was a fucking whirlwind. And then on top of that, we're just coming out of this Pluto Jupiter opposition. This Pluto Jupiter opposition is a big key player in this chart of this full moon. We just had the nodes shift like 2 days ago. So this is our first full moon since the nodes shifted. The North Node is now in Aquarius. So our first full moon with the North Node in Aquarius is a full moon in Aquarius. So we have a lot to talk about. I'm going to share my chart without further ado, and we will dive into it. So this is our chart for the full moon. And the first thing that I want to kind of talk about with this is this Pluto-Jupiter opposition. Now, these two planets are still very much in opposition. We can see Pluto's at 4 degrees, Jupiter is at 6, but they're in their waning of this transit. So when a transit is building, like when Jupiter was moving towards, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 4 degrees, that's the building of the transit. Once Jupiter passed that 4-degree mark and moved into 5 degrees, the transit is now waning, meaning it's closing out. So we are on the other side of this transit in the moment of this full moon, but we are very much still feeling it because this full moon is almost exactly happening on top of this transit. So we can see the sun is exactly conjunct Jupiter at 6 degrees. The moon is just 2 degrees away from Pluto. So this full moon is literally an illumination pulling focus to this transit, this Pluto-Jupiter opposition. And Pluto-Jupiter opposition is intense transformation. We were in that transit exact for all of last week. They were both at 4 degrees. And now, sure, the transit is waning, but we have this full moon coming in, just bringing it back up to the surface. Plus the fact that the North Node literally just moved into Aquarius. We have a whole new nodal journey to go over for the next 18 months. So if you're new to evolutionary astrology, if you haven't watched my reports before, the place where the nodes are in the chart is the cornerstone of the chart. This is the focal point, and it is the key to the evolutionary changes and growth and movement that we're all collectively going through. So as of 2 days ago, we have just started in a new soul evolutionary journey. This is a big deal. This will last for the next 18 months. So you want to look to your chart and pay attention to where you have Aquarius in your natal chart. If you're using whole signs, this is what I use. You're going to want to look at what house is occupied by Aquarius. That house is going through an upgrade for the next 18 months. Simultaneously, you want to look at what house is occupied by Leo. That house and that area of your life is going through a purge, a clearing, and a karmic reset over the next 18 months. This new nodal shift also means that we are collectively healing, purging, and releasing the South Node in Leo, meaning the shadow expression of the Leo archetype, which we're going to talk about tons and tons and tons for the next year and a half. And we are moving into the highest expression of the Aquarius archetype. This journey is basically an ego death because Leo is about the self and Aquarius is about the collective. And that is a simplification, but it is a helpful simplification to orient you towards the karmic clearing that is going to be happening over the next 18 months for every single one of us. So whenever we are being motivated by ego, by personal interest, by selfish desire, this is the South Node in Leo that is coming up to the surface in order to be cleared. This is an ego death. Leo represents the ego. And shadow of Leo is all of the ways that we look outside of ourselves for validation, for affirmation, for appreciation, for like receiving adoration. And all of that shit is going to be coming up to the surface. All of those shadows are going to be revealed so that we can clear them and move into the North Node in Aquarius, which is about the collective. It is about what are we doing to be of service to something bigger than ourselves, to a larger mission, to a humanitarian cause, and to ultimately the advancement of society. That's what Aquarius is about. Aquarius is about the advancement of society, innovation, change, rebellion, and how our unique, authentic essence initiates that change, that revolution, that rebellion. And that's the journey we're going to be on for the next 18 months. And this full moon is very specifically pulling focus to this axis because the full moon's happening in this axis. And this full moon is quite honestly, it's an ego death full moon because we have Pluto conjunct the full moon just 2 degrees away, opposed by Jupiter in Leo conjunct the sun. This means that we are going through a process of the illumination, the sun illuminating the over-the-top dramatic ways, Jupiter, in which we use our ego, our selfish desires, our need for external validation, our need, like with this shadow of Leo, the shadow of Leo is really like, people think that the shadow of Leo is like taking up too much space, right? Being too big, being too bright. It can be that for sure. It can be that version of ego where you're just like, I'm the star of the show, but it can also be these ways in which we use external validation to create a sense of our self-worth, right? And with Aquarius, it's the exact opposite lesson of that. With Aquarius, we find our worth in the things that make us most different, most unique, and most controversial, like the things that maybe not everyone would accept about us, the things that make us different, the things that make us stand out in a way that might make us feel like we're a weirdo or that we're strange or that we don't fit in with the status quo. And there's a very intentional reason why Aquarius brings that energy is because Aquarius is here to disrupt the status quo in order to create innovation. Aquarius is the visionary. Aquarius is here to birth a new paradigm. And so we're going to see massive amounts of advancement in this area over the next year and a half. And this full moon is sending us into this nodal energy with a bang, with some very powerful, potent, like ego death transformation vibes. However, it is all happening for our greatest good because when we look at the ruler of the full moon, we see that the ruler of the full moon, which is Uranus, is in an almost perfect trine to the full moon and is in a perfect trine with Pluto. This means that whatever transformation that we're going through, whatever death and rebirth the ego is going through right now, whatever aspects of self that are motivated by, like, this is a full moon for you to release any type of people pleasing, validation seeking, like any version of yourself that you are being in order to be loved by other people, in order to be accepted, in order to be approved of, in order to receive recognition. All of that needs to be burned in this full moon. On the other side of it, we have innovation, we have creation, we have like new possibility, like breaking of borders, breaking of tradition. Like Aquarius comes in after Capricorn and breaks down all of those traditions that Capricorn has built in order to rebuild something even greater. So because Uranus is making a perfect trine to this full moon and to Pluto in this chart, we know that there is this energy of innovation. Uranus can be a very difficult energy for a lot of people. And that's because Uranus represents Kundalini, represents electricity, represents a very high voltage. And so if you've been experiencing, I said this in the beginning of the year, that The lesson for this year for so many people is going to be to learn how to hold a lot of spectrum in their nervous system, in their body. This is a big lesson of 2026. We're in the fire horse year, right? We're in this very rapid change energy. And one of the lessons of this year is like, how much capacity can you build in your system to hold this voltage, this change, this innovation, this restructuring that's happening? Because it's happening. And that Uranian influence is a positive influence based on the trine, but also I want to mention here that if you're experiencing challenge with holding that level of voltage, that level of like life force and energy that's moving, that's shifting, that's changing, like so much is happening every single day. There is so much being reorganized, and your job right now is to build your capacity to be with that, to build your capacity to be with rapid change, which with like constant evolution, with like quantum leaps in energy shifts. That is a big theme of this year in general. And I think this full moon very much kind of like amplifies that. We're going into an eclipse season. So our next new moon will be an eclipse. Our next full moon will be an eclipse. So this full moon is kind of like paving the way for that eclipse season that's coming in. We're still in this beautiful basket, right? So we've been talking about this, how the outer planets, we have Pluto at 4 degrees, Neptune at 4 degrees, Uranus at 4 degrees, and now Jupiter at 6 degrees. These planets are making harmonious aspect to one another. They're creating a supportive aspect. This is very beautiful. This is opening us up to new possibility, change, and innovation. We just need to have the nervous system capacity to be able to hold that. And yeah, there's likely on the personality level, based on the sun being conjunct Jupiter in Leo, opposed by Pluto, there's like a personality, self-identity, death and rebirth going on. What we need to remember, though, is that we are supported by this outer basket, right? We are supported. We are if we are on our authentic path, if we are being our most authentic self, if we are releasing the fear of rejection, releasing the fear of not being seen, not being accepted, not being loved, like Aquarius doesn't give a shit about any of that. Aquarius is like, I'm here to do what I'm here to do, and I really don't care what anyone thinks. And that is a big medicine of this full moon. And something that I think is a really powerful position to embody, because it allows us to move from true authenticity rather than being contorted by external perceptions, influences, what we think other people think of us. Like, this is very shadow Leo energy, right? So we're being pushed into this Aquarius North Node right off the bat. All of this stuff is coming up. But it's a very exciting time. There's a lot of space for new changes, innovations. And again, it's really about your capacity right now in your nervous system to be able to handle and hold those changes and innovations, and to be able to navigate them in a way where your system is not being fried, right? Where your system is not being, like you need to be harnessing your ability to contain the voltage in your vessel, because your vessel is like the conduit for this electricity that's moving through you. And if the current is too strong for the wire is going to burn out on both ends, right? It's going to fizzle. And that's your body. So you're going to experience things like burnout, things like loss of vitality, right? But if you're working with your energy field, if you're working with Kundalini, if you're working with the practices and the tools to expand your capacity to hold this voltage, you're going to be experiencing massive quantum leaps in your energetic body. So this is one of the things that I teach in Rose Temple. It's actually what we're going to be talking about tonight in our priestess lecture, because it's really important to be able to have the tools to be able to navigate understanding how to hold more voltage, especially as we start shifting into a new paradigm. And with the North Node in Aquarius, we are shifting into a new paradigm. This is new. This is the new earth. Like, it's time. It's here. We're moving into it. And for the next 18 months, we're going to be on this journey. I'm super excited to be on it with you. And yeah, I hope this report is supportive for you. I hope you can use the energy of this full moon to release any of the ways that you're holding yourself back from your own most authentic, unique expression, gifts, and service to the collective, out of fear of what people will think, how people will perceive you, or any other validation seeking kind of habits and behaviors. Those are ready to be burned, killed, die, like, go. And we're just straight into these nodes with a huge bang. So happy full moon. I hope that you're enjoying it. And if you are experiencing some of these ego deaths happening and coming up, this could be a really powerful full moon to do ritual around releasing any sort of validation seeking behaviors, any sort of like external ways that you're being motivated or you're being motivated by ego. And this is really asking you to step into, what would you do if you didn't care what anyone else thought? That is the message of this full moon. What would you do if you didn't care what anyone else thought? Because Aquarius does not care what anyone else thinks. Aquarius is here to break the mold, break the pattern, innovate, bring change, bring revolution to the collective and the next level of human evolution. And so Aquarius can't be bothered with, whose toes that might step on. Like, of course, that level of change and innovation is going to bring challenge to the systems and structures that exist. That's the very purpose of it. And so that's my invitation for you with this full moon is, who would you be if you didn't care what anyone else thought?